Yeah.
You want that balance, right?
Yeah, I had an opener once say to me, and this is the last time I used him. I'm not going to say his name because he's going to get really mad because I've said his name before by telling the story.
Yeah.
But he said, he's an opener, right?
Yeah.
What would you do? You're headlining.
Yeah.
You bring a feature. He gets off stage. The host goes up to bring you up. And as you pass, he goes, follow that.
Ooh. Did he make you smell his fingers too?
That would have made me sick. Yeah.
I thought it was gonna be way worse. You're like, he raped the wait.
Yeah.
No, yeah, I follow that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
Because I'll tell you why that disturbs me.
yeah.
It's because already then you know to him it's some sort of weird competition, right? And it's also you're opening for me. It just seems. Is it me?
I have an issue with like the opening act who's like their mission is not to kill but to blow you out of the water.
Yeah.
Because then you're right, it's not about them, it's about you. And I think you get to a point, like, I think most comics, when they're opening for too long, they get to a point where they're like, I'm going to fucking make it a point. And then it's like, well, then you should be headlining. You shouldn't be featuring.
I had a fucking, a local MC come up to me in Texas and go, I'm usually a headliner, and I wanted to go, well, then go home. Because you're hosting.
I've had that happen a lot. It's weird.
They say that to you?
Yeah, well, they'll be like, yeah, this is my off week. I decided to just,
Yeah.
And you're kind of like, you don't have to have a disclaimer, man. I don't give a shit. Just go up and kill.
Yeah, and it's also like, I've opened for dudes like, I mean, I want to brag, but Martin Lawrence, right? And he told me, do 5. Now, could I do longer than 5?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, right? But it's like, I'm just going to do what I do, and I'm there to serve him.
Yeah.
Right? And I know that he's a gigantic star, right? And I'm just blessed to be here. But some comics have this like, especially it must be rough. You live in the Midwest. You've been doing comedy for 15 years, right? No breaks.
Yeah, but you're not making them live in the Midwest. Move.
That's true.
Yeah, I didn't tell you to live in Toledo, Ohio.
I know.
Pack a bag and get out of here, man.
Why do you think people don't do it? Move.
Fear.
Fear,
but also like, I think there's a comfort in being a bigger fish in a small pond. And then I've seen great comics move to New York, and it's tough, and they're great. So just being funny is no guarantee that things are going to be easy.
Yeah. Do you want to be a star in a D3 school, or do you want to be, the 8th fastest in a D1 school?
Right.
Good point.
That's true.
I think the second.
Me too.
Yeah. I think the second.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember. Were you good when you moved to New York? Did you start in New York?
I grew up in New York, so it's weird. The thing about growing up there and starting there is that people see you when you suck. I was 19, so
wow.
I mean, people saw me at my worst, and it's weird when you're doing jokes that are like kind of what you think are like, oh, this kind of a dark premise, and you're bombing with it. People, they just not only don't like your comedy, they're like, you're a fucking asshole, So
yeah.
So it's tough to like, well, here's all the worst of me.
Yeah.
And this is where I'm just going to be.
But that could also be your perception of what you're going through. Because I think that like, even when I was like young, and in 95 is when I started, and I would say, God, I don't know how to write a structured joke. I'm just kind of crazy up there and doing weird things. And maybe some comics were like, what the fuck are you doing there up there? You don't know how to write a joke. But there were certain comics like, Paulie saw me as an open micer, and he came up to me back then, and he goes, you don't know how to write a joke, but there's just something weird about you that's interesting, which is the kind of feedback that I like.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, well then.
Well, he saw you.
Yeah.
He like saw he's like, oh, you see something unique in me. That's cool.
Yeah. And that's for me what is cool about comedy, right? So when you were coming up, I'm sure, like, because if I'm seeing an open micer say something dark and they're committing to it and it's not working, I don't think, what an asshole. I think it's hard. The fucking thing.
Well, don't you think jokes are hard at open mics? I feel like when something isn't obvious, with an audience, there's like a deal where you're like, I pause, that's the joke, you laugh. At an open mic, they're like, we know what you're doing, motherfucker. We know your tricks. We don't give a shit.
All right.
I mean, I remember a good friend of mine, Gary Veter. He's got great jokes, but I remember watching him just bomb at mics because they were just like obvious. Not the premise. The jokes are great.
Yeah.
But they're just like we see the mechanics.
It's so.
It's
brutal.
hard to do bits at mics.
Yeah, it's such a. It just brings me back to how. Do you ever think, how the fuck did I go through that?
I don't know if I could do it again.
I don't either.
Just because the mics suck. I would hand out flyers instead because I would just rather do the handing out flyers and be like, these are people I don't know. I felt more freedom to fail if they were just strangers. Although the looks you would get handing out flyers on the street were just, the pity was just brutal. I remember a woman just looked at me and she goes like, "Aw." Just call me a fucking loser. Don't go, "Aw."
Yeah.
I was a flyer giver outer.
I hated
in high
it.
school. It was my first American job.
How
I
was
was
it?
very proud.
You liked
for
it?
LA Fitness.
I did it as a summer job too for comedy clubs, and then I was like, "This is depressing."
Well, would you have to? I mean, did you have to hand out the flyers for you to perform?
Yeah,
Oh my god.
yeah. And I remember like there were different places you learn how to work different streets. Like I do Upper West Side, like 109th Street, and that was hard because no one was there. You're literally like you see a person like a block away. You're like, hopefully I get that person.
Yeah.
You would literally go on stage where there would be like 4 people in the crowd, and you have to be like, hot lineup tonight. This person's here, and then they'd be in the crowd, them and like 4 other people, and they'd be like, your first comic, and it would be me, and they'd be like, you motherfucker, you lied to me.
Yeah. No, but if you when you're passing out flyers, is there a chance you're not going to perform because you didn't pass enough flyers out?
Yeah, I saw this good friend of mine, Dan St. Germain. He did it once, and you had to do it 2 hours. It's the first time I met him. It's probably like 14 years ago or something. And he's handing out the flyers. Then he goes, "Yeah, I think I'm good." And the guy goes, "You only have to do 10 more minutes. You can go on." He goes, Nah, I think I got. I'm good. And I was like, I've never seen a human being put themselves through that for nothing. I was in shock. You're like, you put yourself through an hour, 50 minutes for no money, for no stage time.
Yeah.
He was just like, I can't do this.
Wow. In LA, we do bringer rooms here.
Well, you can't flyer in LA. There's not enough foot traffic.
Oh yeah.
In New York, Times Square was not as bad to bark there because there were so many people that it would go by more quickly.
What do you think is easier though? Is because bringer rooms in LA are like, you can't perform unless you bring 30 people.
Jeez. 30 people. I mean, you run out of friends quickly. I had friends who were like, I'd be like, come to my show, and they're like, I'm not watching all those shitty. They're fine watching you bomb, but like the other lunatic. The 3 of them are like fucking mental patients that are never going to do it again.
Yeah. And the problem with open mics is because you're mixed in with the crazies and the homeless sometimes. Like when I started open mics in LA in 97 or 98 when I moved here, there was half of them were homeless.
Right.
Like people, just street people.
I would love to see that show.
I know, but you would have.
That's what you think.
Yeah.
But then they go on and it's like nonsense, and you're like, I don't want to live in this. Like, it becomes craziness. I'm with you.
You have a guy like Robert William Aprovaya, and he still does them. He's in a green suit.
Yeah.
And the sun. You know, and they're doing that on stage, right? Padatu, right? and doing a different language, right?
It's my time.
And the audience is like, 5 minutes of this.
Yeah.
Oh no, I had no problem bombing. You're like, I can handle bombing, but like they'd be reading the open mic sheet, like, all right, your next comic, BTK serial killer. It would be like, and then you're like, I have to sit through this shit.
Yeah.
Wait, speaking of BTK serial killer, please pull up his sketch of the sketch of him.
What is it called?
Really?
BTK sketch of BTK. Fine torture, whatever.
Did you get this cookie?
These are the best cookies.
No,
Sam,
you really had this before?
Yeah.
I want you to tell me who you think
are
the
the best.
BTK. This is a sketch of the real BTK killer.
Yeah.
Damn. Holy shit.